takes a minute. Okay. We are live. Woohoo. Hi, everybody. Okay, so whoever's watching this back now, we're letting people come in for a little bit. Oh, we already have a few viewers. We're going to wait a few minutes in order for people to join. But yeah, this is the Out on a Limb live show with Miss Hannah Bonam-Young, everybody. And then I'm also joined by the lovely, there we go, this way, Zay. Reads. We both read arcs of this book, and we love it so much. And then, unfortunately, Caitlin is not able to join us today, but I hope that she is able to join in the chat. We hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so excited. We're gonna see comments popping in. Hi, Lisette.
Hi, Lisette.
Hey, oh my goodness, this is so fun. I've never done a YouTube live before. I'm like,
hi. Okay. Let me, for a second, I need to post on my Instagram.
Yes, I'm posting on my Instagram.
I just did. I was like rushing and I was like, oh wait, shoot, I haven't posted anything.
We're getting live.
Okay.
Probably doing a weird face on that because I was not.
No, you're not. You're cheesing. Okay. Let's do this.
Okay.
Your story, my story, post. Okay. A little chaotic. I'm excited though because like this is your first YouTube live. This is my first author interview. So you are the first author on my channel.
Thank you so much, Ava. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so we are here to talk about everything out on a limb. We are so excited for you to join us. And we have some pre-questions that I'll put on the screen and some topics that we could talk about, but also if anybody in the comments has questions or anything you'd like to ask Hannah, like shout them out, comment them. And we're going to talk about this amazing book. Okay, let's see what some people have to say. Oh my goodness. Okay, so first I think we're going to do like a very small at the beginning, like spoiler-free section for those who have not finished or read the book yet. And then the majority of this live show is going to be filled with spoilers so we can gush about the amazing book.
It's been 2 weeks now. I feel like it's fair to get some spoilers at the end. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so first we're going to do introduction. So we're all going to introduce ourselves in case people don't know who we are. So Zay, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So hi, I'm Zay. I'm Witty Reads over on Instagram, and I love Hannah and her books. So I am so excited to be chatting about Out on a Limb, which is one of my favorite romances of the year. A new all-time favorite. I'm hyping it up because it's y'all. It's amazing. So I'm so excited.
And I'm Avery or Ava from Ava's Romance Books. And I also love Out on a Limb and Hannah so much. I only haven't read one book by you, which is going to be read by the end of the year. I need to read Next to You.
I was like,
I know. No, I have to read Next to You. I just got because she just announced that she was traditionally published.
Yay!
So I have the copies that are going to like go out, you know, like the covers. So I just bought those. So I'm waiting on my copies to come in. But Out on a Limb is my favorite book of the year. And it might be my favorite book of all time. So I love this book.
I'm going to cry so much on this if you guys keep going like this.
All right, go for it.
It's been like emotions over the past 2 weeks, and now like this, like I'm like, okay, we'll get some tears. It'll be fine. No what? It's a safe space. Hi. Thank you guys so much for doing this. Hi, thank you for having us, Ava. My name's Hannah. I write books. They are of the romance variety. I have 4 books. My first book was Next of Kin. My second book was Next to You. My third book, which was a novella, a holiday novella, is called Set the Record Straight. And my newest book, which we're here to talk about tonight, is Out on a Limb, and it came out July 11th. And they're all on Kindle Unlimited, but only for a little bit more time because, as Ava just said, I've been picked up by Penguin, so that's really exciting. But they are going to be off of Kindle Unlimited soon. So if you want to read them on there. You might want to do it now. But yeah, it's just come out, and it's been a wild 2 weeks, and I'm excited to talk to you guys so much about this book because I've talked to you both personally about Out on a Limb, but we haven't gotten to do it in front of people. So
oh, I'm so excited. I'm so happy for you that you got picked up, by the way. Like, that is such an amazing accomplishment. I am so
honest, like, it just still feels completely surreal. Like, the way that it happened was just so fast and so sudden and so amazing. And I'm very grateful that I have just an incredible agent who works so hard, but I just never saw it happening. I never really saw it for these books, the types of books that I write, I guess. And they just found a spot with an editor who really gets what I try to do with my stories and the inclusion and everything that I try to put into them, and wants to keep doing that with me. And it's just cool that someday soon, hopefully, my books are going to be in stores and available for everybody to see, right? Like, it's just really magical. But yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you. It's just a big change, so I feel like I'm still not used to saying it.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Like, can you imagine just walking through the store and then you see your book? Like,
I have to admit, like, I think about seeing Out on the Limb most because I think part of me thinks, you know, whether they change the cover or not, because I'm still not sure on that, seeing a cover with 2 disabled people, like physically, visibly disabled people on it in the store is just going to be so, like, I would have killed for that like 10 years ago, right? So it's really, really cool. But yeah, we can get into what the book's about, and then people will know what I'm going on about. But
we do have a few new comments, so I'm going to highlight those really fast. Oh, we already put those ones up. Oops. Oh, great! It's weird to think too that people have read it because of me too. I'm like, no, they already probably know about it. Everyone knows about it.
You guys both have, like, this is the cool thing about this community, right? Is like, I owe so much of it to you guys and so many other people who like really champion books. And it's just, I've never been a part of a community like this. And it's, you know, when we're doing the right thing, it's great.
Yes. Exactly.
I heard about your books from Zay though. Zay and Caitlin. I heard about your books from them because they've
been pushing for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
I try. And Caitlin, I mean, she's the reason that I picked you up. And I'm like, Caitlin, I tell her this sometimes. I'm like after Out on a Limb, I was like, thank you so much. Because I was really missing out on these types of romance books, you know? And I just was like, this is exactly why I read romance, you know, for this very reason.
That makes me feel good. Also, like shout out to Caitlin, because she's one of the first people who really like pioneered for my books, like really truly made me feel like I had a spot in this community, and like it's just such a generous soul. So I'm sad that she can't be here tonight, but hopefully she can watch this back and see how nice we all are about her.
Yes, we love you. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. I already knew from like chapter 1. I was like,
yes,
I already know this is going to be a new.
It's so funny how many reviews I'm getting tagged in where they're like, I read the author's note and I was like, this is going to be 5 stars. I was like, yes, that's like a different thing. Like, you have to, we need to get at least 10 chapters in.
Well, no, I know what they're saying. I read the author's note and I started crying.
Yes, me too.
I'm crying. I was like, oh no, if the author's note makes me cry, what is this book gonna do?
Well, I mean, I guess that means that my books have found my type of people, because I also cry. Like, I cry at dedications like every single time I pick up a book. I'm like, oh my gosh, they love someone. Like,
I know.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, it's because a lot in your author's note you wrote like something about disabled joy, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what this book is about, for sure.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's so nice.
Okay, so do you want to talk about what your book is about?
Yeah. So the book is called, as you've probably gathered by now, it's called Out on a Limb. It is about Bo and Win. So Win is our star of the show, and she has kind of just grown up wanting to be independent to a fault, despite the fact that she has a physical disability. So she has a limb difference that is the same as my own. So she has a less developed right hand where she doesn't have fingers on her right hand. Basically, it's kind of made her stubborn and it's made her very independent, and it's made her very quick to want to control and be on her own and keep it that way. And so when she meets this guy at a Halloween party and they kind of hit it off, she isn't about to change that. And she kind of insists that, if they're going to have a thing, it's a one night thing. He rolls with it. They have a wonderful night together at this Halloween party, and they kind of part ways and don't really plan on speaking again until about 6 weeks later, when Wynn discovers that she's pregnant and calls him up to let him know. And then the story from then on is just this kind of slow unfurling of two people learning to rely on the other person and learning to be friends with someone who you have attraction to, and then becoming best friends, and then realizing you're in love with this person and everything's a bit messy and tangled and you're not so sure. And it's really about as Ava said, it's about disabled joy, and it's about two people with disabilities just learning to accept themselves and cheer the other one on as they do something that's scary for everybody, but particularly scary for disabled people, which is have a baby. Because, when you grow up thinking you're not as capable, or you think that you're not as capable, doing something like having a child is intimidating. So, so that's Bo and Win. Those are my fake friends that I get to talk about all the time.
They're your babies. They're your babies.
Yeah.
But it feels so weird saying that they're my babies, because I'm like, I wrote them having sex, so that would be inappropriate. But they are my friends that are imaginary, but not to me and not to some of you.
They're very real in my heart. Yeah, they're very real.
Yeah. Their meet cute is, as I said, it's Halloween, and I just want to throw this in there because it's like my favorite thing. But so Wynn is dressed as a pirate. She has a hook hand because she thinks that's hilarious. And she bumps into this guy who is Bo, and he's dressed as a pirate as well. And so they're bickering about how one of them has to change, whatever else. And she's like, well, I can't change because I need the hook. And she's like, I'm going to win. This is hilarious. And then he sticks his leg out, and she realizes he has a prosthetic leg that he's dressed up to look like a pirate's peg leg. And of course, from that moment on, it was like, how are they not going to fall in love? These weirdos found each other, matching costumes, making fun of their own disabilities. Like, there's no way they're not going to become best friends at the very least.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's just, and that's, chapter 1, and then chapter 3, we're already upstairs getting down to it. So it's a fast start and then a slow burn.
Yes.
I love that.
Perfect. That meet cute is my favorite ever. Like, I think I reread that a lot. I loved the beginning. I was like, they're so cute. I can't get enough of them.
They're just, I've never had more fun writing than the first 5 chapters of this book. Like, just the minute they met, it was like that minute you meet your person.
Mm-hmm.
Even though neither of them wanted to really admit it. But just they're a good team for sure.
We love
I feel like I gush about them. I'm like, they're so wonderful. Like, but I feel like that makes me sound like I'm bragging, but I'm just like, I love them so much.
No, you wrote them as if they are literally real people. Like,
yes, you did.
Yeah,
they do feel very real to me, but
they are very real. They are real people. Like,
someone in the comments said, "Is the character of Wynn based on personal experience?" So, yes and no. So, like I said, here I can show you a little bit closer. Hopefully, it's a little bit clearer. So she has. Oh, wrong way. Oop, there we go. She's got a small hand, and it's the same as mine. Ta-da! Hi. And so personal experience in the sense that I grew up with the same disability. So it's like my story in that way, but we're very, very different. Like, I don't want to paint this picture of like, I'm Win is me. Like, she's an outdoor person. I am not. She's a petite brunette. I am a not. Well, I'm petite, but I'm a wider version of petite. And redhead, and like, you know, like we don't have that much in common, but you know, obviously writing from personal experience came in handy in this circumstance, because I think there's a lot of nuance to disability, and there's a lot of like little things that I got to include that affect my day-to-day that I don't think I would know without that experience. But no, she's not based on anyone, but yes, definitely personal experience for sure.
And I really like, you can tell that its own voices. Like, you like, it's done beautifully well. Like, it's done so well. So I want to thank you for how amazing you talk about disability representation in this book. As someone who's also disabled, like I love it. I could cry. I don't want to cry. So
that's they definitely do feel real. Yeah, that's Bo and Win. That's out on a limb. I don't want to get, like we said, we want to avoid spoilers for now, but
so we are about to jump into spoilers. So if you haven't read the book yet or haven't finished it yet, you might want to pop off now, not spoil yourself, and then come back later. But if you have anything last minute to say before you pop off, comment it really fast, because we're about to talk about our favorite scenes in the book. So
I'm so excited to hear what your favorites are. Like, that's way more fun than what I have to say.
The whole book is my favorite, so this was hard.
Literally before you jumped on, Zay and I were like, what is it gonna be? What are we gonna say?
Well, I can go first if that's helpful. But my favorite is definitely chapter 24, which is when they're sitting on the couch eating ice cream. They've settled into their new normal. They're living together. She's a little under halfway with her pregnancy. They're very definitely in love, but not admitting it to each other. They're best friends already. And they, you know, Bo goes to change the music over and he asks her to dance with him. And they dance to Frank Sinatra's Strangers in the Night, which is the perfect song for them. I don't know if y'all went and listened to it after you read, but it's their song now in my head. And they dance, and then eventually the music fades out because the record ends, and they just keep dancing because they don't want to let each other go. And it's like one of those scenes where it's just the longing and the pining is so intense, and they just want each other so much, but they're so afraid, and it's so gentle and soft, and it's just I love that.
It's so good. Oh my gosh, I want to cry. I love that scene. There were several times when I was reading on my Kindle, and I threw my Kindle, and I was like, I have to stop. Like, this is so beautiful. Like, I love the little intimate moments between them, and when the music stopped, that was so beautiful. It just kept going, and I was like, oh my gosh, Hannah, what are you doing to me?
But it's also like, and then the music stops, and she's like, are you okay? Because they keep dancing to nothing. She's like, are you good? Like, do you need a minute? Because she can feel him kind of tensing. And then he's just like, I'm trying to come up with the right words to thank you for everything. Like, I know I wrote it, but I didn't. Like, I feel like I didn't. Like, I feel like I just, like, Bo said that to Win, and I'm like, like, he's just so grateful for her, and she's so grateful for him. And I think that that's kind of like a part of the factor of almost like them both being disabled. And like the reason I had to write this particular story for these two characters is just like, it's so hard when you're a disabled person to feel like you can fully lean on someone, because you have either been made to feel like, or you're taught to feel like, or you kind of naturally, at least a little bit, feel like a burden. And for these two people who definitely feel that way, but try to give themselves grace and give themselves patience, it's a lot to ask for them both to ask that from someone else, to ask for grace, to ask for patience, to ask for understanding, for help. And the fact that they're just so grateful for each other and constantly feeling like, you know, he's so grateful for her and he can't even imagine like any world in which he's just not like, you know, how do I even begin to thank you for everything? But in her mind that we're in, her POV, she's thinking, I don't deserve this guy. He's so wonderful to me. Like, you know, and they both heal from that together. And I think that scene is really when the healing starts in that aspect, because they're both realizing like, oh, you're just as grateful for me as I am for you. And we both needed each other. Like later in that chapter, Wynn says, you know, like that's what we are to each other. We're two people who went through some shit and we're coming out the other side and we have a lot to look forward to. And we're sitting with each other in that pain, but we're looking towards the future. And like, that's, I think, the moment in the book where they start to shift into this reality of like, really, you have to love yourself before you can fully love someone else.
Yes.
So I think that's why it's my favorite.
Yes, you did that so good. Yes. Yeah, you did that so perfectly. I think I told Caitlin, I said, you know, sometimes I read books and it feels like, I don't think that's the intent, but sometimes it's like, oh, I got through this because of this person. And I was like, you know, I think she kind of made it clear that they both grew as individuals and together, and they healed from it together and as individuals. And I thought that was so beautiful because that's hard to do, you know. You don't want to feel like, oh, I only did it because of this person.
Yeah.
I did it because of me and this person, and we did it together. And I thought you did that so beautifully.
Thank you.
Zay, you want to say your favorite scene?
Yes. Okay, I have it on my phone. Okay, this is the scene when I think is it Bo? So they okay, just we're gonna get in spoilers. So Wynn and Bo are trying to get to know each other, and they start asking each other questions so they can do that. And one of the questions that Bo asks is, who in the world matters most to you?
Yeah.
And Wynn says, you. And she says, I answer simply pleading with him to hear me. And then he says, you, it's you for me too, with a very close second. And he eyes her stomach and
Her baby bump.
her baby bump. And it was just, oh, I love that. And, you know, she talks about how she wanted to be braver. She wanted to ask him like what he meant by that. You know, she's ready. She wants to tell him how she feels, and she wants him to tell her. And then she says, simply because something inside me is entirely his, something I know would follow me into the next life or beyond that, even if I left this body behind. Just the longing and the pining, and they're falling so deeply in love. Like they've literally met their person, but they're both hesitant to go there. So I love that scene. It was a really beautiful, longing moment.
I really love that scene. I think it's funny because while I was writing, because that's obviously, well, we know, but that's after like kind of a one bed moment where they have Bo's father staying with them from out of town. And so Bo has given his dad his room. Bo was going to take the couch. It's this moment of, don't be ridiculous. We can share a bed. We're having a baby together. We're friends, you know. And it's like, and she's like freaking out because she knows she's already in love with him and she's trying to work up the courage, but it's scary. And so they're laying in bed, and it's so intimate without being intimate, right? Like, and I think that was the really fun thing about writing a slow burn after a one night stand, was like they had immediate sexual intimacy and chemistry and banter and all of these things that is a foundation for a lot of really successful relationships. But what they had to do, because of the way their journey was, is get to know each other on such an intimate level without all of that stuff, that by the time they get they're in a bed together, sharing it's not uncomfortable whatsoever. They're just so they're just so comfortable that they fall asleep in each other's arms, and it's not like, oh, I fell asleep and I woke up and I was on top of him, which is like, I've written that in other books. It's a trope I love, don't get me wrong. It was like, for them, they were like, let's fall asleep like this, because they both just they wanted each other so bad, and they had such comfortability, which was just so fun to write. Because it felt like writing like a friends to lovers towards the end, even though it was very much strangers at the beginning of the book. But yeah, I love that scene. And I love the get to know you questions throughout the book too. Like, that's some of my favorite parts. And like seeing reviews where people will answer those questions has been really fun.
So cute.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh. I have a lot of favorite scenes. I don't know if I have a singular favorite, but to highlight, I think 2. I love, obviously, the one towards the end when he's braiding her hair. Like, I love it. I would cry. I love it so much. And I'm so excited for my book that I pre-ordered to like come in with like the art print and everything. So I'm framing it and putting it on my shelf. I don't care.
I have a few still in my office, and I'm like, I have to remember to keep one for me, because I keep like sending them to people. I'm like, wait, how many do I have? Like, because I'm so like, I need to have this art in my house. It's so beautiful. It's so stunning.
It's beautiful.
So yeah, this is the scene where he braids her hair, and it's just so sweet.
Beautiful.
And it's like the detail in this art, like the artist is Lovelet Valley. She's so talented. Like, you can see his prosthesis and the reflection.
Yes.
The bathroom.
wow.
Like, it's just, I don't know. They're so sweet. And she's so pregnant at that point in the book.
Mhm.
Bless her.
Yeah.
So done being pregnant.
And then my other favorite scene is probably like, I have many, but like one that sticks in my mind so much is when they meet and they're at that party and they're just talking and getting to know each other and conversing for the first time. This is before they even hook up. Like, I love their banter and the way they're easily able to like fall into conversation with one another. They're like, we've known each other for forever. Like, that's how it feels. And I was swimming. I love it so much.
I love the beginning too. Like I said, writing the first 5 was just the most fun I've ever had writing. After that, it was like, okay, now I have to do like plot and like real stuff. At that point, I was like, they're having so much fun. Like, they have no idea what's coming.
We have some questions, so I thought I'd pop them up for you.
So when I first put out my first 2 books, I designed the covers myself, but those are not the covers that you'll be able to buy anymore. Those were not as cute, probably. But so the design process now for me has been just finding an artist who wants to work with me, and then getting a vision together, and like a lot of Pinterest boards, a lot of like inspiration from just like scenes in the book and stuff. And yeah, and then the artist kind of takes over, and then you do all the boring formatting stuff and sizing. And once you have the finished book, you have to figure out how many pages it is, blah, blah, blah. But from now on, the cover process will be handled by the team at Penguin. So I don't really know what that looks like. That's exciting. That's new.
So do you know or not, like, if you'll have like an opinion on the new covers, like get a say?
Yeah, I mean, the team is so wonderful and so lovely. Like, when they asked me about that during one of our initial meetings, I'm going to be honest, I kind of just said, like, I don't mind having a more hands-off approach. Like, I really trust your team. You guys, like, all the covers that they've put out, I really love. And honestly, like, I think the biggest thing for me is like, I'm really excited to get back into just focusing on the writing side of things.
Yeah.
So they asked the other day, like, if there was anything I really wanted or really didn't want. And so we've been chatting back and forth for about Next of Kin and Next to You. And yeah, they're great. I think they would have me as involved as I want to be. I just am happy to take a backseat. Yeah. I'm like, you guys have been doing this a very long time and very successfully, so I will take your word for it. What works?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So that's it. Oh yeah.
So good.
We all just like took a minute, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Oh, that should have been my answer because, yeah, when he beelines it straight to her in front of everybody and picks her up off the ground. Ugh.
Literally the first person he went to, like, right to her.
It's
That's a
yeah,
good
for anybody
one.
who hasn't gotten there yet, but maybe wants to know, Wynn kind of throws him a surprise 30th birthday party with just their very, very dear friends and his father, who's in from out of town. And she had his dad take him out all day so they could keep it a surprise. He gets home. He was worried she wasn't going to be there because she had stayed the night at a friend's before because she needed a little bit of space. And so when he sees her, he just like pushes through the crowd around furniture, just like beelines it to her, is like, did you do this? She's like, happy birthday. And he picks her up and he's like, I'm so glad you're here. And he's a little tipsy because his dad took him to a brewery and he got a little tipsy. So he's a little bit, in his feels. And it's a very sweet moment for sure. Yeah, I love that part.
We love Tipsy Belle.
Yes.
I liked the moving in scene too. Sarah and Caleb are the best. Sarah and Caleb are Wynn's best friends who are married.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Good one.
Yeah. Again, for everyone who doesn't know, Bo and his best friends play Dungeons and Dragons. And I towed the line very carefully of making fun of it with love. But it was from Wynn's perspective, right? And she's like, what is happening? What are these grown men? Like my friends and my husband is very nerdy and into all that stuff. So it's like, it is very much done with love. But she finds out that, yeah, I won't spoil that actually. That's too funny. I'm going to leave that one. It's one of my favorites too.
I was
good one.
I love that.
Especially how he guilted all of his friends into doing it. Because he was like,
yeah. Exactly. That was so good.
And I love his friends too that all play with him. Like
just an odd concoction of men.
Yes.
Just a weird group of you have like a 70-year-old and like a young student and like his boss and his boss's husband who's a chef, and just like it's just very random. Yeah, they're all good friends.
Yes, it was so good.
What advice do you have for the disabled community on dating? Okay, I don't have a lot of dating experience. I married my first boyfriend. My advice would not be helpful, but I think the thing is, I would say this about anybody, but I think it's especially pertinent to disabled people and the disabled people in my life that I love, is don't settle. Like, do not settle. You are so beyond worthy of that experience and that person that you think is some far off dream. And I think that, like we touched on earlier, like you have to really find within yourself at least acceptance of where you're at, how it physically impacts you or mentally impacts you or impacts your day to day. And accommodations shouldn't be a chore.
Yeah.
I think that if you read this book, you will see very clearly where I stand on men who sometimes will date women in the disabled community and act like they're doing a service to mankind. And that's happened to a lot of my friends, and it drives me insane. And if you have that type of person in your life, leave. Because anybody who treats you like they're doing you a favor, or anybody who treats you like, you are a burden in any way, it's just not the person for you. If they make you feel high maintenance for just simply asking for help or asking, like I know in my life, there's a million times a day where my husband does things that are both just no longer conscious decisions. Like, he sees me in the kitchen and there's a jar on the counter, he's going to open it. And he's not going to go, do you need me to open that? He's just going to do it. Like if I'm struggling with tying my shoes and we're in a hurry, he's going to say, can I do that for you? It's not, it doesn't have to be this grand thing, this grand gesture. It should be as simple as just you want to help that person and and also your comfortability. Like if you're around someone and you're like, oh, I don't want them to see me like that, or oh, I don't want them to think this of me, or oh, I wouldn't want them to help me with that because they might think of me less, then that's probably that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my thoughts. But actual dating, no idea.
Same.
Like Ava might be a better person to ask.
I've been on 2 dates in 6 years.
So way more than me.
No, but like from the 2 dates that I've been on, I dipped my toe into online dating because I am very socially anxious and I don't leave my home and I live in a small town. Yeah. So I tried my hand at online dating. I went on 2 dates with a guy and it's hard. It's hard to be like, oh, like they want to go hiking or go go walking around places. I'm like, I cannot stand up for more than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I didn't I cannot stand up for more than 30 minutes unless you want me to faint on the sidewalk. Not happening. So like it's very difficult to like figure out, like it's difficult for you to not think like you're a burden in that way at times, because you're like, oh, I have to change the whole plans around. But then you have to like twist your mind around and be like, no, if they really care about me, if they actually want to go on a date with me, they won't care where we go. They don't care what
if they want to spend time with me, they'll spend time with me and how a capacity I can do it, or an activity that I can do, or a place where I feel safe.
Exactly.
And that also goes for non-disabled people too. Like if it's like, hey, that makes me uncomfortable, that shouldn't be like an inconvenience. That's like a boundary, right? Like, or
that's right.
So
yeah.
But yeah. Oh, we should do like a whole segment where I just make stuff up and you actually talk about dating, because that was fun. I tell you about my book all the time.
Okay, we're on to our next section. I thought it would be really fun to talk about our favorite quotes, possibly just talk about how much we love your words.
Yes.
So if anyone has like their favorite comments, you can put them in the chat box and we can just rave about everything Hannah's
We can all just get in our feelings together is what
Yes.
I mean, mine is definitely "You are my soul's purpose." Because just hurt. It hurts good. Yeah, I don't think I even have anything to add to that. Just like, if he really means it too. Like he really means it. He's like, my purpose on this earth is to be around your orbit, and I don't care in any capacity in which that is. And I just think that is to me like true love, where it's like we can be friends, we can be roommates, we can be more than that, we can be less than that. I don't care as long as I get to exist in the same space as you. Like, and that's totally Bo from the get-go. Like he's just like, he's down for every inch of like every inch that Win will give him. He's like, great. And he's not like, I'm gonna take a mile. He's like, that is a great inch, thank you so much. Let me know when there's another one and I will keep going. Like he's just consistent and patient with her. And it's I don't know if this is such an obscure reference, but there's this song and it sounds strange, but it's called "We'll Never Have Sex." And it was trending on TikTok for a while. And it's basically this song about just like this kind of what I view as like this very like innocent relationship where it's like this person is just so in love that they're like, I don't care if we never even venture that way. Like I'm all in here. And that was so much of an inspiration for Bo. And just like, so anyways, I rambled when I said I wasn't going to ramble, but him saying like, you're my soul's purpose, like it felt so right, because it was just like, he really means it. Like he really means like, I don't care where I go, who I meet, what I do. This is why I'm here, is for you. And I just, that's really cool. Yeah, he really didn't care how she was in his life. Exactly. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I agree.
Anyway, sorry I rambled again, but I got excited about it because I just love them.
No, you can just keep going. I'm just like, I could listen to you
Yep.
talk about them
I just the
forever.
Word on a Limb podcast, which is me ranting for like 60 minutes about like, did you catch this reference?
Exactly.
He made the graphs purple and green because that's their favorite colors. Like, it's like so stupid, but like, that's not what my brain works now.
Oh,
Zay, did you pick yours yet?
yeah, I've been looking because I have basically in every chapter I have something highlighted, like literally. Gosh, there's so much, but I love when he tells her, "You've given me so much." When ever since I met you, it's like every part of me has healed a little bit. Do you know that? Do you know that you do that for people? I just, if someone ever said that to me, just the way that he's so appreciative just for being her.
Yeah.
He's just like, wow, like you came into my life and you've literally been a blessing from the very beginning. Like I like how she was nervous about telling him about her being pregnant. She really, of course anybody would be, she didn't know how he would react. And
I love
the
that
way
part.
he reacted, I love that too. The way he reacted, he was just like, wow. And of course she didn't know. And of course he explained to her why he was so like reacted that way. But just from the very beginning, he was so thankful for her.
Yeah.
And that scene just, I loved it. I loved it so much. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of highlights. I think I told Zay like this is probably the book that has the most highlights I've ever read. I'll read one. I just picked one. I don't know if this one's my favorite one, but it's one of my favorites. It's in Wynn's point of view, and she says, they'll never know how existing in a body that the world is not designated to accommodate can create so many avenues of empathy for others, experiencing the same thing for a variety of reasons, the determination and the resilience that come from that, the community it cultivates.
wow.
Yeah, there was a lot. I think so. That's the chapter where they have their anatomy scan, so their 20-week ultrasound. That chapter and chapter 7, I believe, is really when we get kind of the most reflections from Wynn about her own experience of having a disability. Chapter 7 is more so her experience of growing up and kind of the beauty standard side of things. And then later on in that chapter is the ultrasound where she and Bo are finding out whether their baby has any disabilities that are visible on that scan. And when she discovers that again, spoilers, when she discovers that the baby is not disabled, at least physically, it's a hard moment. And that is the moment of the book. And I'm going to start crying and I'm really sorry. That's a moment of the book that is pretty much exact experience for my husband and I. When we had our 20-week scan for our first pregnancy, I was so terrified and so guilty about being terrified, because it's like you want what's best for your kid, but you don't want to admit to yourself that what would be better for your kid would to be able-bodied, because being disabled, like it says in that quote, is such a beautiful thing, and it has community, and it builds determination, and it builds resiliency, and it builds empathy, because you're walking through life realizing that things aren't made to accommodate you and noticing how that's true for other people, not just because they're disabled, but because they have a different skin color than you, or because they are from a different place, or because they do or don't speak like a certain language, or for a multitude of reasons. It makes your perspective so much wider, I think, to be in any marginalized community. And so I remember having those thoughts and being like, they're also not going to know that, and I'm going to have to teach them that, and that's intimidating, right? Because then it's like, not only do I have to teach them that, but I have to be the person in my household as a disabled person, and now an fully able-bodied household, is like, this is my perspective on that, or this is how mommy has to do it, or this is why mommy does things differently, or you know, they see someone else and who's in a wheelchair, and my kids, you know, might react differently than kids from parents who aren't disabled, because I've taught, you know, it's like it opens avenues of conversation, but it's so disorientating in that particular moment before you've even met your child to be like, oh, we're not the same. And my husband was just like, if I wasn't already in love with him, like, which unlike Bo and Win, we were married when we had our kids, so I was in love with him. But like when we had our ultrasound and I was sobbing after, like Win is in this scene, he said what I put in the book, and I stole it from my husband because I couldn't help myself, which is when Bo says, you know, I think I'm a little disappointed, because he wanted them to have her hand, because to him, she is perfect. And to him, it wouldn't have made a difference. And I don't feel like I can explain like that relief of like finding someone who truly earnestly means it. Like when they say like, I'm a little sad that they don't have your hand, because it's there's nothing like acceptance, right? And that's all we want, anybody. And so like I knew that was going to be in the book, and so I feel like I'm hesitant to usually talk about that chapter, because it feels like that feels really close. Like this book is vulnerable for a lot of reasons, obviously, but that part especially, I'm like, ooh, that was the part where I was like leaving a little bit, you know, on in the book that's a little bit close to home. But I mean, it's just, for me in that moment, I think I realized for the first time, like, it wasn't just acceptance. It wasn't just, you know, tolerance. It was pure love. And that's what I wanted Win to feel. And that's what I wanted the reader to feel. And so like, I put that in there, but every time I read it or think about it, I start crying, because it's just like, you know, that's how it should be. It's how it should be for everybody. It's especially for people who weren't given the standard, you know, perfect everything. Anyways, I went off again, but
so we love it. We're here to talk to you and hear what you have to say. Like,
but it's so difficult, I think, to explain. And even still, like, I find myself wanting to like rationalize it and almost like protect the fact that she did have mixed feelings. But you can hold mixed feelings and still hold like pride, right? Yes, like you can still be like, I want my kid's life to be as easy and smooth as possible, and I also still love myself and love the body that I was born in, or love the body that has changed, or love the body that is how it is, or whatever else, right? So it's like, I don't know. It was one of those moments, and I think that's why too, for Win, after that point, she was like, we need some space, because I got to figure out how to tell you that I'm in love with you, because who couldn't possibly, you know, like if you're not in love with him by that point,
right,
where he's holding your hand as you cry after an ultrasound because you feel bad because you asked if the baby has fingers and just kind of blurted it, which is also what I did. So it's just it's cool, because it's like, as an author, like obviously my job is to make stuff up, but seeing people like respond to like parts like that, it's like, that's the community aspect of it, right? Yeah, that's really special. Thank you for just putting that one out, because I don't think I've had the chance to even see like that highlighted yet or anything, because it's like, I think that is a bit more niche, so it's thank you.
And I will say, the disabled romance book girlies, like our little community, even just that small little community and our already small community, like I just love how romance readers in general, we're very accepting on making sure there's representation like that in their books. I haven't seen as much disabled representation in any other genre, honestly.
I would say that like a lot of nonfiction,
Yes, yeah, that's my second. Yeah.
But like I do think that romance is leaps and bounds ahead for not even just disabled representation across the board.
I agree. Yeah.
Because I think like it's very much this thing of like love is a common factor in everyone's life. And I think writing romance, it's like you are really writing for the reader, and the reader in the romance genre is so diverse. So it's really cool to see. I mean, obviously there's a lot more work to be done, but
Yeah.
I think the cool thing about romance is that it's really written for readers, and it's written for readers to, you know, self-insert to a certain extent. And so that means that books have to look like all of us. Like they have to represent the community versus, you know, if I'm writing a fantasy, it's like, this is about fairies. It's not about anyone. Like, which is serves a purpose and is so great. But like, I think that's the special thing about romance for sure is like, we're really cultivating a community of people where it's like reading about someone falling in love and like reading it from their point of view or multiple point of views. You're really immersing yourself into that character. And it's such a cool tool to show a unique perspective or show an experience like being disabled or, you know, like anything. Like it's eye-opening, and it's wonderful that it's become that way for sure.
Yes. Yeah. I have a question for you here.
What do you think should have more representation in romance? Oh, that's a really good question. You know, actually, I was speaking with someone the other day. They had finished Out on a Limb, and they asked me if I knew any romance books where the main character had epilepsy. And I couldn't think of any. And I did a little bit of research and I couldn't find any. So that kind of comes to mind just because that was something I was asked the other day.
Okay. I have some on my TBR and I'll send them to you.
Could you? That would be great.
Oh.
But it feels a little bit self-indulgent to say this, but I do think like I couldn't find many books with limb differences that were limb differences from birth.
Right. Yeah.
And not to say that that makes it a different disability or anything. It just changes the character's perspective. Like I think growing up disabled versus becoming disabled is obviously like a very different experience. Like usually one has a lot of trauma attached to it. Like there's an accident or an illness or something. And the other one is kind of this like acceptance and this weird kind of dynamic of being a kid and having to grow up in an environment where most kids are bullied anyways. So it's kind of, you know, I think that was kind of a missing area. And I'd love to see more. That would be really cool.
The only one that I've read other than Out on a Limb is an alien romance.
You know what? You sent that recommendation to me and I read it and I loved it.
Wait, was it the H.G. Wild one?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't remember now because it was like 8 months ago when I posted that's how this book kind of came to be, was I posted like, hey, I really want to read a book about someone with like a disability like mine, a limb difference, preferably one they were born with. And then 1 million people flooded the recommendations, a lot of which were like, they said like, oh, well, this is someone who became disabled later in life, or this is someone who had an accident or was sick or whatever else. Like a lot of like prosthesis users and stuff. But that one was one you were like, this is, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll read it. And it kind of, I think that kind of somehow bled into the reason I put the alien comic book in this book, if that makes sense. Because I was still thinking about it and I was kind of like, oh, so
that's amazing.
I love that.
Wow.
That heart is so happy.
Oh, Liesl just made a really great comment. I'm still waiting for more CP rep and romance.
Yes.
That's a really good. Yeah, that would be definitely. Yeah, honestly, it's such a silly answer, but all of them.
Yeah.
Anything, anyone should be able to be like this, even the most obscure, because that's what really I feel like this genre separates the genre from other genres and makes it special. Is like we have. Like, hey, like I'm looking for a recommendation with X, Y, and Z, and someone goes, yes, like this book. And even if it's just one, it makes that person feel seen.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is true.
So many.
This is true.
That's a thing. It's like it's, you know, and it's a wide audience, and it's wider than people think. And it's not like, oh, if I write a book with someone with CP, just people with CP are going to read it, right? If only people with limb differences read out on a limb, we wouldn't be talking right now. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's not how it works. And that's the cool thing about it, is like it's for everybody as much as it is for people who, you know, have the same disability. But yeah, I would love to just see, you know, I think like authors that inspired me, you know, like Chloe Leese and like other authors who have always like written, you know, like it's not like I'm not the first, and I'm not even close. And it's not that I ever claim to be like some kind of pioneer, but I think that I saw like a little niche of like, this is what I was born with, this is where I exist. I would really like to just put this out there for just in case anybody else, right? And I think that if authors did that, and if we support authors who also are disabled, and so they, you know, write their own stories, I think that's where we're going to be better off, right?
Yes.
And we'll write stories. So Liesl, maybe you should.
Yes, maybe she should.
Girl, do it.
I would love that. My brother has, you know, and I really just appreciate authors who write about disabled characters, because I have a sibling who's disabled. And so my brother wants to get married. He wants to have kids. He says it all the time. And everyone deserves a love story. Everyone deserves to see themselves represented in all forms of media. And I would also love that, because my brother has cerebral palsy and epilepsy. So I totally agree. And, you know, if you want to see it, maybe you should write it. Maybe that is something on your heart that you should maybe do.
Yeah. Yes.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I've read a few books with Potts. I think I've only read like 2. And one of them was Talia Hibbert is another author that does representation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And honestly, it was like some of the first contemporary romances I read, like her and Helen Huang. And I mean, Abby Jimenez has Life's Too Short, where there's a lot of ALS representation in that. Like that was, and like those were some of the first contemporary romances I read when I was like, ooh, I think I want to write. Because it was that moment of your like just, oh my gosh, like anybody can be in a romance book.
Yes.
Like it felt like something unlocked, you know? Like it was just like, oh, it doesn't have to be like Ken and Barbie, which like they're on my brain because I just saw the Barbie movie. But like, you know, like that kind of like perfect ideal, right? Like it doesn't have to be, it can these are like people like these are my friends, like, you know, and that's where I think it's really cool to see like the romance genre moving towards more and more, I feel like. And they were definitely like the trailblazers in that for sure. Talia especially, who's just so
fantastic.
Talented.
She's amazing.
That one, and then one by Laura Lynn Page has a side character with Potts, and it's absolutely fantastic. But those are the only 2. I have read a few with celiac, but the few that I have read, I don't think. Oh, Chloe Leese's is amazing. I love Chloe's. I was thinking about the ones I read before Chloe's, because Chloe's most recent Bergman Brother book has celiac rep. And someone who was diagnosed. I think, like you said, like the experiences are different on when you're either diagnosed or whether you were born with a disability or you get it later on in life. Because like Chloe was telling me like, oh, the hero in that book, his relationship and what happens to him with his celiac, getting diagnosed like way later on in life. He's like in his late 20s, early 30s. I don't remember, but he's like later on in life, he gets diagnosed. She goes, that's what I went through. And so I think I was talking to Brie about this because we read it for one of our Chronically Courageous book club picks. And I'm like, I thought the representation was done great. I didn't personally relate to it all that much, even though I do have celiac myself because I was diagnosed when I was 7. You know? So it's very different.
Yeah. So. And that's perfectly okay. Like it doesn't, you know, like it can make you feel parts of it seen and parts of it not. And that's why we need so many people to write about the same thing, because
so many different stories,
so many different ways. Yeah. And I think too, like to your point of like, whether it's, you know, you're born with it or later on or adulthood or childhood, it's also like physical, visible disability versus invisible disability, and not saying one is on this pedestal and one is below or whatever else, because I know that can get very messy in the disabled community. And just to be perfectly clear, all disabilities are disabilities. It does not matter if it's visible or not. But I think that we have to acknowledge that there's a difference, right? Like someone who is in a wheelchair, or someone who like is walking down the street with a prosthesis, or someone who, you know, uses a cane or has mobility issues, is going to have a very difficult experience meeting someone, like being at a party, flirting with someone. Like it's like, even in my limited experience with having my hand, it's like, that's why I wrote into the book where people go to shake her hand and she's like, why? Because it's awkward, it's different, and it's weird, and it makes meeting people tricky, and it makes relationships tricky, and it makes first meetings tricky. And I think that's the, you know, the part of it that where it's like, as a disabled person, I love these stories about invisible disabilities because I've never experienced that, and I feel like I learn and grow from reading that, and I've built empathy and I've built more understanding. And I think that the cool thing is, even though I'm a part of the disabled community, I can still learn. Like I can learn a lot about the rest of this community. And that's like through books like Chloe's, like where it's like celiac or autism or rheumatoid arthritis, like things that I would, you know, I just didn't think about before.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's cool.
Yeah.
That we have, like I'm going to keep repeating myself, but it's really cool that we have this community to learn in.
Yes.
Yeah. For
Yep.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's absolutely, like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Same. Absolutely same. Even though I freaked out at my kid's ultrasound, definitely same. There's so many opportunities in my life and so many conversations I've had and so many things that have happened simply just because I was born disabled that I would never want to take back. So, I think that's hard for some people to understand, but it's such a true thing. Like it's, yeah, that's cool. This is so lovely. We should do this all the time. It's just this group,
right? I really love this too. Because like my brother has cerebral palsy, and I didn't know about cerebral palsy school. Like I didn't know that, and I've grown up, and that's another thing is I grew up with someone who is. So all my life, I've always thought about accessibility and things like that. And when I encounter someone who hasn't, I'm like, how? Like, how do you not think about that? And how are you not so passionate about people being able to have different, like, that's my life. That's what I
accessibility,
do.
right? Yeah.
Yes. It wasn't until I had a really bad flare last year. And that's when I got Miss Betty behind me. That's no, Betsy, not Betty. Sorry. Betsy is my walker. My dad named her.
Your walker just starts drifting away from you. Like, what are you calling?
My dad's first name, she has two names because I asked my dad when I first got her, what's her name? Like, what should I name her? He goes, name her Henrietta. And I was like, okay, so her name's Henrietta. And then the next time, my dad literally had like a horrible day of back pain. And I'm like, here, you want to borrow Henrietta? He goes, her name's Betsy. And I'm like, okay. Let's like, okay. So she has two names technically. So, but it wasn't until I got her that I realized like how inaccessible our freaking world is. Like I was in college when I had my bad flare and I had to leave for a semester because I couldn't do school. And so I came back and I had to bring my walkers. First time I was a college student, I had to go with my walker to school. I had to walk around campus and I'm like, I had to take the long way everywhere to get where I want to get. And it like, there's little curbs everywhere and other things. It's things you are not open to until either you experience it yourself or someone basically sheds that light on you. Like I've always been like very empathetic to those in our community. And it wasn't until I had experienced that myself to be like, I didn't even realize this. And I've been in this community for so long. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And that's the thing, like that's why like no one person can be the advocate and the spokesperson for the disabled community. Just like no one person can be like the advocate or spokesperson for like the Asian American community or like any like or like the Jewish community or whatever, because unique individual experience is what it comes down to. And it's like, you're a part of a disabled community. It doesn't mean you're the expert in accessibility for every single person or what being disabled means to every single person. But I think that's the cool thing about more of these own voices stories happening
Yes.
is that you're at least getting one person's true lived experience. You don't have to worry about it being insensitive or maybe not told correctly or whatever else, because it's like, if that person is telling it from their perspective of their lived experience, it only has to be true for them. And like, or if they're working with, you know, readers or a professional who is telling them their lived experience, like if they're doing it through, you know, like with help, then, you know, then it's that person's experience or whatever else. But as long as it's being done responsibly, then I think it's a very, very cool thing.
Yep. I just wanted to mention we have this banner up here because we wanted to talk about how amazing the representation is, and we kind of segued beautifully.
We were doing that. We knew what we were doing. But
I really appreciate this representation, and it's one of my favorites of all time now, because of one of the main reasons is because of the representation itself. So I wanted to say thank you because it's done so well. So
it is. And also, I want to say this is why it's so important for this, because anyone who doesn't have this experience, you can still relate to different things. Like I still related to when, you know, I struggle with mental health, and I have to say, having a family, having children, all those things. I think about that with my mental health.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love these two. And that's why it's so important for everyone to read these and support authors, because you can find things that you relate to as well, and learn things, gain more knowledge. So thank you so much, because I related to Win as well in different ways. So I just want to tell you that too.
Thank you for saying that, because that's really important to me, because I'm sure, like, we've talked about the author's note a little bit, but I put in there, like, this is not just a story for disabled people, though it is, like, you know, it's a story for anyone who's let a fear of failure hold them back from something, or who's been thrust into a situation that feels so beyond their control or so beyond their understanding and capabilities, because life's scary. Like, it's not, you know, like, we're not prepared for most of life, and things change and things come and go. And like, this story is really at its heart about someone who didn't think they were capable of doing something, learning through self-acceptance that they're absolutely more than capable. And I think every single person I know can relate to that.
Yes.
So thank you for saying that, because that's really what I wanted. I really didn't want it to be just for, you know, a few of us, but
yeah.
Candy, that's so cute.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love that. I didn't even think of that. Like, witty names. That's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Okay, our next section is basically, we have like favorite. I didn't know. Zara didn't know. We were like, we want to talk about this, but what banner do we put up to talk about this? And so, like, oh, we'll just make this random one. So basically, just like things we really loved about the book. I guess we could have titled it that.
Yeah, we could have. We were just like, we just want a section where we can gush about things that aren't necessarily questions, you know?
I work on my blushing already. I'm like, already.
Yes, Zay has a perfect one that I love.
Oh, yeah. So I told Caitlin this immediately after I finished. I said, you know, one-night stands are kind of tough for me to get behind in books, you know, because sometimes I feel like the relationship is built on lust or something like that. I said, but Wen and Bo had an instant attraction, not insta lust or insta love. They had an instant attraction, instant connection. And they had great conversations. They laughed together. They just immediately found their person. But that scene was so beautifully done because it was intimate and they already trusted each other already. And it is the most unique one-night stand I've ever experienced. And it's my favorite. I loved it. It really showed their connection and their chemistry. And I was like, this right here is how I want it to be done. Like, this is what I've always wanted. And it was perfection. So that's why.
Thank you.
This is be.
Okay.
Accept the praise. We love the praise.
It's been a weird few weeks. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Like just shouting thank you into the void. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we have.
How old were you when you decided? Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know if I ever decided to be a writer. I feel like I've been writing most of my life, and when I wrote Next of Kin, I sent it to the people I'd sent other stuff that I'd written to, and it felt like they kind of chose for me. Like my family and friends were like, this one you have to do something with. Like you can't just keep sending them to the like 6 of us and then not doing them anymore. And so I feel like, you know, that was only 2019. So not that long ago, but is when I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to like writer as a career, as a profession. I think a small part of me had always hoped for it, but I am a very practical person, and sometimes I feel like I've pigeonholed myself into things that aren't for my creativity or aren't necessarily like super safe in terms of financial stability or anything, because it's like, okay, well, I need to make sure I'm doing the thing that helps my family or helps me get by or whatever else. And writing always felt like a bit of a dream and like in a bit of a fantasy in that sense. So when I decided to become a writer, 25, yeah, I don't, but yeah, I don't know.
So we should be thanking your loved ones because
yeah,
yeah, we should be thanking them.
Did just enough pushing where I didn't like stubbornly be like, you don't know me, but but enough pushing where it was like, okay, like if you think it's good enough. Yeah, I still feel like all of my books, I'm like, I still send to the same people and now some new people, and I'm like, is this good? Will people like this? Let me know. If not, we'll pretend it never happened.
I love that. Okay, so the rest of our banners are questions that either as hosts we created or viewers like submitted to us beforehand on our Instagrams. So we'll have those pop up. But again, if you have any questions in the comments, shout them out, please. Okay. This is our first one. Were you nervous about writing about an accidental pregnancy?
Yes. Short answer, yes. Long answer, definitely. Yeah, it's always a bit nerve-wracking when you realize that maybe a trope isn't the most popular trope and that's what you're feeling called to write. I really felt like if I was ever going to write that trope, it would be in this circumstance for two people who, as Zage kind of just touched on, like they had a one-night stand, but it was a little bit more intimate and a little bit more trust built because they had this mutual understanding of each other and this vulnerability that it takes for two disabled people to like kind of get to that step and like what, you know, feel safe in that space. And I knew that if I was going to write an accidental pregnancy, I wanted it to be like this like one-night stand situation, and I wanted it to kind of reflect that. And I thought, okay, well, this has to be the book then, because that's the one I told myself I would write, because, you know, it's intimidating to become a parent for anybody, but especially, as I said earlier, for disabled people. So it's not that I ever doubted it once I made my mind up. Like I never was like, oh, I'm going to go back to the beginning and maybe they'll be coworkers and it'll be awkward because they slept together the night before and someone starts a new job. But once I was in it and they met and I started writing it, I was like, this is the only way that this can go. And hopefully people like it. But definitely nervous and still nervous when I get comments being like, any other woman drama, cheating, pregnancy? I'm like, no, yes.
Yes. I saw your TikTok that you came out with the and I got off and I sent it to Zay today. I was like, have you seen this?
Yes. Every single day someone's like, oh, other woman drama, cheating, miscommunication, third act breakup, pregnancy, and I'm like, we were so close. We were so close to a full no. Hear me out.
But I want to say, like, you've done it in a way that I've never read about before, and I think you made me fall in love with the trope. Like, you made me fall in love with it, and I finished reading it, and I was like, I need more. I literally, I searched the
I love accidental pregnancy. Yes. So I'm like, as a reader, there's very few things that I don't enjoy, to be honest. Like, I'm an easy 5-star read for most authors. Like, I'm like, I had a great time. But like accidental pregnancy, I never really understood the like aggressive dislike of it. Right. But now being on this side of it, it's like, it's intense. Like, people will be like, absolutely not. Or like the comments that are just like, gag. It's like, oh no. And it's like, I don't hold anything against them. You don't have to read something you don't want to read. And if it's a hard no for you, that's so fine. But I'm like, my God, I'm just trying to like live in here. Like, oh my God.
It's very intense.
Because he's like, he's read books that I'm like, you have to read this book. It's like my favorite book ever. And so he reads romance, and he reads all of my books before anyone else, but he doesn't read a lot of romance, so he's not in the community. And so I'll show him these comments where it's like, you had me until pregnancy trope, or like gag, or like all this stuff, and he thinks it's so funny. It's just like, what do people have against babies? And I'm like, I don't know, a lot.
Oh my gosh. I think I was talking to one of my friends, and I was like talking about this book, and I think I said like, one of the reasons I love it so much is because it's accidental pregnancy. And I think some of the reasons why I didn't like some of them before is because I couldn't see the characters get together if she didn't end up being pregnant. You know what I mean? But I could totally see Bo and Win bumping into each other one day later on in life and being
figured it out.
Yeah, they exactly. No matter what. But like,
I mean, I won't say this because like I know we've done a lot of spoilers, but this one I want to absolutely keep safe. But like, you know that in the last chapter when he pulls a certain item out and you're like, oh, they were gonna be.
Yes. Yeah. It was always meant to be. Yeah.
That's why that's why I love it so much, is because like they would have gotten together anyway. Like
she would have figured herself out eventually.
Mm-hmm.
He was friends with Kate, like he was friends with Caleb. They would have met at another event. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's why it works so well, exactly, because also, like, I would love to say you converted me, but I don't think there's one like this. I think Out on a Limb.
Have you read there's been two that I really like. Reckless by Elsie Silver, which is like a different version of it, but
it is.
And then Lizzie Blake's Best Mistake by Maisie Eddings is a one night stand turned pregnancy. I want to read that. That one is really cool. It's it's like dual POV, but it's like third person. And so like, and that one was cool too. I like those ones. Those are the ones I've read this year. Baby Moon or Bust is another one that.
That cover so cute.
That one was on my TBR for this month, but I didn't get to it.
Yeah, I do want to read that one. That one looks really.
Maybe we buddy read that one to keep each other accountable.
Down for it.
Yes.
I think what I love the most about this one too is you actually got to go through her being pregnant, because I don't mind. Surprise baby is hard. It's hard to sell me on. I want it to be a good reason. Secret baby.
Yeah,
but same. I like that we actually got to see them together. He took care of her. You know, he was just there for her. I really love that too. Like I was like, wow, maybe I need to read more, because if this is what I've been missing on, that was just something that I really liked too.
Thank you.
I know I did. Yeah.
I think Zay and I we talk every day, but we've both been like, we are in such big book slumps after reading this book, and we read this book months ago, and we're like, we haven't read it since. Like, nothing is as good.
Listen, Ava, I think I would have more sympathy about that if you were like, I haven't read Next to You yet, because it's like, I feel like if you like that on a limb, you'll like Next to You.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for I know. I actually was waiting for the audiobook to come, and I have the audiobook now.
My slump cure is to read a different genre. Like if I'm like, oh, that book was so good, I need to not read another book like it, then I'll just I'll read usually fantasy. Like I'll switch.
That didn't even work. That's how good this book was. That nothing worked.
That's silly.
thrillers help me out like nothing. Thrillers? And I was like, no, I miss Win and Bow. Like, I need more. And I was like, what do I do? Luckily, Book Bonanza happened, so I got a little distracted.
My very lovely friends, Meg, who was a beta reader for me and an ARC reader, and like still is so incredible. Like she was like, I need you to do it like weekly episodes. Like I need. She's like, I would like if Win and Bow could be like updated, like maybe like every Friday. Just like, what are you doing?
I guess.
So just like for the rest of my life, I just have to.
I agree with that.
Yes.
I will say, if you do love Out on a Limb, and this is your first book by Hannah, Next to You is like, and all of them are beautiful, but you haven't read Next to You, so you have to. But I feel like those are very, I don't know, they give me the same. It's what I fell in love with, you know.
I think it's because Mateus and Bo are the same type of guy, which is
okay then
head over heels,
yes,
a little bit goofy, so just genuine.
That's what it is.
They're both single. All of my books are single POV except for my novella. But I think like with Bo and Matt, you know what they're thinking. You don't need to.
That's true.
They're so hard on their sleeve that you're like, I got it. I got what they're thinking. I got what they're doing.
Yes. So then go read all of her books. After that, then go read all of them because they're all amazing. But if you are missing like that, Next to You is what I would do next. Yeah.
Yeah, because I first read Next of Kin because of you and Caitlin. And I think I messaged Hannah afterward. I was like, this was so good. I know you don't know me, but I have to tell you, I love this book.
It's so nice. Those messages are so special. Like every single person that starts with like, I know this is weird. I'm like, no, it's not weird. It's never been weird. Anyone who starts the message with, I know this is weird, I know the message isn't going to be weird. It's the other messages you got to look out for.
When they don't give you that warning.
When they're like, hey, bestie. You're like, oh, hey.
I love this because I was the same. Christy, I was the exact same way. So
yeah, me too. I think that was the last one that I had. And I was like, you know, because I read your second one first and then I read your third one. Then I went back and I was like, Hannah's first book is amazing. Like, there's no misses with this one. I mean, you're so talented.
I mean, there's so much I would change now in all of them. Like, so it's, I mean, yeah, like, I think that's natural. Like, for my friends I've spoken with who are writers too, like, you have multiple books, like, you look back and you're like, it's, you know, you look back on old videos or you look back on, like, you know, texts you sent even like a year ago and you're like, oh, like, if you're not doing that, then you're not growing and you're not changing. Right. So, like,
that's true.
But, I mean, I'm really proud of like what they've done. I think like if I can say like I'm proud of them, I'll get there eventually, but I'm proud of it's been a year. It's only been 14 months. Wow. And so like you know, when I released Next of Kin, I had like 200 followers on Instagram. I didn't know anybody. I was like, hey, if anyone wants to read a book, like it's just been cool. And so it's like, I'm very proud of that. And so I can recognize that came from the books and like, you know, but it's tricky to be like, yes, I love my books. Cause I'm like, oh, I would change everything, but
I'll do it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This book is on my August TBR.
I've heard of that.
Max Monroe. It's by Max Monroe.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, Tori and I are going to buddy read it in August. I'm excited.
Next to You?
No, Accidental Attachment.
Oh, Accidental. I've never heard of. I need this then.
I would like to read it.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember. It's a condition. I think it's a chronic illness of some sort. But I'm excited because I think Carrie for Romance texted me this book like months ago saying like, oh, you should read this. It looks so good. So I was like, okay, I finally will do it. It looks really good. So yep. I need to read it.
Would you? Oh. I think I'm too sensitive. I love reading romantic suspense. And I mean, I feel like erotica, the definition of erotica has kind of changed over the years. Like, I don't consider my books not erotic, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I know that erotica typically means like they're much heavier handed in terms of sexual content, but I hope someone writes that because I would love to read it. But I'm sensitive and I like everyone being nice to each other and everyone not having anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety, so yeah. But if you know of any, can you drop them in the comments? Because I would like to read them.
Have you read any Catherine Cowell's?
I haven't, but I've only heard amazing things. And it's like, I literally have a list on my phone of like books I've told myself I have to like, or authors I've told myself I have to experience before the end of the year. And she's literally number one on that list because everyone raves about her stuff.
We love her.
The fourth book in that series, Shattered Sea, is Own Voices for chronic pain representation. And it's done so well. All the books in that series and the Tattered and Torn series are romantic suspense books.
And I'm assuming I would have to I would read 1 through 3 before reading 4.
You could. Book 3 is my favorite in the series, so
but totally you can standalone.
Because that was the series I was planning on starting with. So
but it's so good. But
you
can read the standalone. I think all of them are fantastic in that series, but Shattered Sea is very near and dear to Catherine because it is Own Voices. So
that's cool. Thanks for telling me that. I'll check it out.
But if anyone else has more recommendations too. I don't really read romantic suspense. I think Catherine Cowles is like the only author I've really read anything with romantic suspense. So I would love that. So.
Oh, hi, Autumn.
Oh, yes. Hello.
Everybody's here.
Let's get to
I thought it was a new question. I was like, and then I
already answered that.
Okay. We want to know how the writing process was for this book.
See, this is when I wish Caitlin was here because Caitlin, bless her heart, was my one of my emotional support people. This book was it's so tricky because it was so easy to write in the sense of I have never had a clearer vision for where the story was going to go and how it was going to unfold and the timeline. Which is the trickiest part, I think, for most authors, is to really figure out the pacing and this needs to happen here and this needs to happen here and we need to get to here to get here to get here to get here. So that was smooth and that was super easy. Emotionally, it was like really incredibly draining and like really just like I wanted this book to have the vulnerability that it deserved from my own lived experience, but it's really challenging to drive up all those feelings and then be like, okay, I've hit my word count for today. It's midnight. I need to go to bed. And then just sit in those feelings, and like, and a lot of it is so personal and vulnerable. It was also this fear. And this is where friends like Caitlin kind of came in and other friends where it'd be like, is this boring if you aren't disabled? And I don't even just mean if you aren't disabled. I mean, if you don't have the hand that I have, is this even a little bit interesting or entertaining, or does it translate? A lot of the time I was worried that I was putting too much of her experience on page and it was going to kind of make it hard to follow or make it kind of convoluted or whatever else. So I joke in the acknowledgement section of Out on a Limb, I made this book everyone's problem. So I have a lot of people to thank. And I meant that. I've never had more beta readers. I've never had more people voicing their opinions or sending sections to people being like, hey, if you just read this out of context, would you get it? Would you identify with this feeling? And I think too, just even though it's single POV, getting Beau's experience right, there was obviously a ridiculous amount of research into prosthesis and wearing a prosthetic and all of these things and amputation and all of these things that I really wanted to get right, and working with like people who've gone through that process or have had like her wear a prosthetic or whatever else. And so it was time consuming in that sense too. But like, I mean, when I feel like finishing this book was so gratifying that it's like almost like labor, ironically, because it's like, I'm like, I would do it again like that. But during writing it, my husband was like, are you gonna finish this one? Like, this is, you know, I'm like, I don't know. I remember I had a conversation with a really dear friend of mine, Sophie, and she was a champion for this book. And I thanked her first in the acknowledgments because she really, like, it without her, it would not have happened, because so many pep talks. I was 85,000 words in to a 93, keep in mind, to a 93,000 page book. So like, we're talking like over 90% of the way there. Right. And I was like, I don't want to finish it. I was like, I think it's boring and everyone's going to hate it. And I think that maybe it's too personal and it's too vulnerable, and I don't want people to read it. And this poor girl sat on the phone with me for like 3 hours, was like, babe, we gotta finish this book. You are so close. Let them be happy. Even if you do nothing with it, let Bo and Win be happy, so you can at least be like, okay, that's finished. And then I finished it, and I was like, I read it back, and I was like, oh, this is fine. It was just like this like weird emotional blur. I couldn't see the book for what it was until I was done. And I'm so glad for her, because I truly would have not finished it. But, yeah, so that's why I say when I'm sensitive, like, I mean, like, I barely finished contemporary romances, let alone if there was like suspense or like, you know, we're so nice to each other the whole time.
Well, shout out to Sophie, right, for out on a limb, because thank you.
Really. Yeah. She's the best.
Next question. Do you have any plans to make this book a part of a series, or is it going to stay a standalone, do you think?
You know, I've thought about it a little bit here and there, and I've chatted with a few people about whether maybe Sarah and Caleb should have like their moment in the sun. But I think what I really feel right now, well, first of all, I feel really strongly about a project I'm working on right now. So I'm like, and that's not a part of this series. So the answer is I don't know. It's the same for when people say, is the next series finished? I don't know. If I get an idea and I'm like, I have to write that, then I'll do it. But at the minute, I don't really have any solid plans for it. So I think it'll be a standalone. And I think that feels right for the story that it is, to keep the attention on them and let their minute.
Yeah.
Yes. So Tantor has purchased the rights for audio. And in my experience, when they purchase it to being completed is about 6 months. So I would say hopefully by the end of the year. But I don't really know. So if that doesn't happen, nobody's allowed to get mad. No, I'm just kidding. I have high hopes that it'll be sooner rather than later.
Okay, that's exciting.
We're also wondering how you came up with the names Win and Bo.
Yeah. So Bo was born from practicality. I needed a name that could have 3 different nicknames, because in the book, she doesn't realize who he is because she's heard of him referred to as a different name. Someone else doesn't know who he is because she heard of him referred to in a different name. So Robert, Robbie, and Bo were born. The Trinity, as
yes.
my friend. Win was just I really love old names, like you said Henrietta earlier, and I was like, like Henrietta, Winifred, like these like party, you know, grandmother names. Also, I have a friend who goes by Freddie, and I just think it's a really cute nickname. So I wanted to include that. So that's kind of where they came from.
I love that.
I love that.
I just want to say I appreciate you making his name Bo, because my dad's name is Robert.
No, you were like, no, it's not Robert. Actually, it's not Robert.
I was reading that and I was like, please don't make his name Robert. Please don't make her call him Robert.
No, the way that she only calls him Robert one time, and it's when she's making fun of him. But she's like, Robert.
So good.
Well, I mean, Robert's his dad's name, so I feel like
yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, that's right. She does.
I never even thought of that.
I love that.
Until someone else asked me this question, probably about 2 weeks ago. They were like, so I noticed that in the book, Sarah, Wynne's best friend, is wearing a sweater that says Valeris on it. It was like a subtle little throwaway thing, which is a Court of Thorns and Roses reference. And then so they were like, so is the soup? So it's so funny that I accidentally, yes. I pretend it was on purpose.
You mean to say
yeah. I was like, they're soulmates. So it's a offering. Yeah, no, I wish I had thought of that, but I think I just really like soup. I was like,
next question is who or if there was the inspiration for Bo. Someone asked this question.
I mean, so much of Bo is my husband, and I don't mean to say that in a way where it's like, I think that that's every romance author's worst nightmare, is people thinking that they're only writing their own relationship. And I promise that they're not alike in a million ways. They don't look anything alike, whatever. It's not creepy, I swear. But like his nerdiness, his Lord of the Rings obsession, my husband played the tuba, not the saxophone, but
I love that.
So a lot of inspiration was taken from my husband for sure. I think in terms of the way he looks, and I'm a big Swiftie, so nobody come for me, but they were still together when I started writing this book. I was envisioning Joe Alwyn for a period of time because I was like, ooh, handsome, tall, blonde guy, right?
Yeah.
We can pretend that it's not him if we want to, but that's who I pictured. Oh no, I think Ava's frozen.
Uh-oh.
Is she frozen for you as well?
She is.
Ava, come back to us.
Ava. Okay.
Do you have control over the buttons? If no, okay.
I do not. Uh-oh. Maybe she'll come back, but I do have more of the questions.
Oh, perfect.
So she'll come back.
Yeah.
You probably have to leave in and come back. Okay. Oh no.
It's all good.
Okay. It's okay. Okay.
I love that question about the soup though. That's so
yeah.
I feel like I just have to, from this point on, I'm gonna lie. Be like, yeah. Obviously.
I didn't even think of that. And I come on, do I? Because I didn't even put the two and
That's
two
what
together.
I thought. It was that's sort of one of my all-time comfort reads. And I'm like, I didn't for a second I was just like, he's cute and he's making her soup.
I
didn't piece it together. But it's funny. But people notice and then they're like, oh, yeah, that was intentional actually. But usually it's the deeper things when they're it's a deep cut. They're like, I noticed that he says this and then later on he says this. Was that intentional? And you're like, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It absolutely was.
Everything is so well thought out.
Okay, well, yeah, she's trying to come back on. Well, I'm gonna go ahead.
Okay.
The next question.
Then there was one.
Then Caitlin, Avery. She'll come back. Well, we're gonna manifesting that Avery's gonna join us back, but okay. Well, we wanted to know what/who was the inspiration for Wynne?
Oh, basically I was just let me write my granola girl, crunchy, outdoorsy friends that I love. A lot of I live in Ontario. A lot of women around where I live are just these incredibly outdoorsy people who kayak and canoe and paddleboard and just have this simplistic beauty about them. And I just feel that's I like in all my books, I really just want to celebrate like womanhood in a sense. And I feel like I liked the idea of writing this like kind of like nature girly. So there's no one specifically that I envisioned as her kind of inspired her. It was more so this like kind of like, I guess, archetype. And then it, you know, she became more complicated from that point. But just, I think someone who is very physically capable, it felt right to write her that way because she, I, you know, as someone who is disabled, I wanted her to not be seen as anything but very strong and tough and, you know, hiking and outdoorsy stuff that I had to Google to explain. I was like,
well, I love one. She's so relatable. And like, I think that I love that the most out of your books. All of the heroines are so relatable.
Yeah, I think like the highest praise I've ever gotten, and I mean this sincerely, is like someone said that my like my leads of my books are all women they'd want to be friends with. Yeah. Because it's like that's what I want to write. Like I want to write books where it's like, yeah, that's my friend. Like she's just like so and so, or she's just like because like I love women and I love womanhood and I love the community that we have and like the way that, you know, like the most magical place on earth is like a woman's bathroom at like a club. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's the vibe I want for my books is like women that champion other women, want to hang out with other women, are just like the people you know. Yeah. Yeah. There's no like, you know, no superiority amongst the girls I write. They're like ride or die.
Yes.
They're friends.
I love that. And I'm just going to continue that. That leads us on to our next question, which was there any real life inspiration when it comes to Wynn and Sarah? We love the female friendship.
I mean, like kind of in that same vein, like just the women I have in my life and the friendships I have in my life. Like I'm so blessed to have to kind of be entering into my late 20s with just this solid group of women that I've had for a while now from all different walks of life and experiences and met through all these different experiences. And, you know, like there's just nothing more amazing than having a solid group of friends who you can truly rely on and truly like relate to. And I think that the inspiration for Sarah and Wynn's relationship was really just like having that person who respects you and will ride and die for you and has your back. And like, I think that that's just from the relationships I've been lucky enough to have. Like I put in my acknowledgement section specifically about my friend Abby and like, she's just like that person for me where it's like, you know, I call her and I'm like, we're bearing a body. Okay.
Yes, you're right or die.
You know, like, like, and I think that strong female friendships are so important in romance as well because like they're written for women and young women. Right. It's like, again, just like you shouldn't lower your standards for a partner, a romantic partner, you also shouldn't lower your standards for your friendships because and I just think that they're just like there's a person for everybody, there's a friendship for everybody. And so their relationship is really just inspired by like the women I've been lucky enough to know and be loved by and love and they're good for each other. Like they really
are. They're perfect. They balance each other out. Like, you know, we didn't talk too much about Wynn and her background and how she was raised. Both of them are raised by their single moms and stuff. I'm curious how that came to be about their backstories.
Honestly, like I just had this idea of I want to write a relationships that's like sisterhood, but biologically isn't. And so I liked this kind of, I mean, if you've read any of my books,
no, I just got kicked. My internet, I live in bum country, Texas. And I get kicked out sometimes because the internet sucks. I'm so sorry. No, I was literally at the same time trying to figure out, can I do it on my phone? Why isn't my computer working? What is going on? Anyway.
Okay, you're back.
Sorry.
I got scared for a minute.
Again. It was frozen again. And I was like, Ava, no. Ava, stay still.
Okay.
Zay just very kindly asked me about the inspiration for Sarah and Wynn, and we were just chatting a little bit about their history and their backstory and stuff.
Yes.
So I just really was interested in this kind of found family idea. I mean, if anyone's read my books, you know, found family is like my favorite thing to include. And so I liked the idea of kind of Wynn having that since birth. So her mother and Sarah's mother were both high school buddies. They both got pregnant at the end of high school. They said absolutely not to their baby daddies and moved in together and raised their babies as siblings, essentially, so they could kind of, you know, have that two-parent household platonically. And so Sarah and Lynn grew up really as siblings, but not quite. Oh no.
I know.
Oh no. No.
Avery, we're just losing you, Ava.
No.
Oh gosh. Oh, I hate this.
It's okay. We'll have to, you know, do another time with Caitlin and too. So
yeah, that's true. We're gonna. Oh,
that was rapid fire.
That was.
Oh, we are on a phone.
You're on your phone, yeah.
We're trying out our data. Yeah.
Yes.
It was very cute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
This is so sad.
It is so sad. Oh no. Ava. Oh man.
Well, give it a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna give it a minute.
This hasn't happened in a while.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. It's just it's the echo of it.
It is.
Oh.
Well, okay.
Much clearer now. That seems like a good sign.
Good.
This is
Am I
good. You're good.
So.
This is good. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. It's okay.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, this is the worst.
It's okay.
It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
We're fine. We're all here now, and it doesn't look like it's gonna freeze again.
Okay, cool.
Good.
Okay, hi.
Okay.
Dang internet.
What were we talking about before?
I feel like we were ready to like move on to the next one, so then we fresh start, you know.
This was the next one.
We should.
Well, after that, yeah.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh gosh. Well, the next question was, what are your favorite tropes to write? Well, Ava's gonna come back.
I love forced proximity. I really don't think I'll ever write a book without forced proximity.
Yeah.
I'm so greedy as a reader. I'm like, I want them to be together all the time.
Me too.
I'm like, what do you mean I have to read a scene where he's not in it or she's not in it?
Exactly.
There's not even a potential of flirting. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
Exactly. I'm with you.
So I think forced proximity for sure. I love friends to lovers, writing friends to lovers, just because I think it's so sweet and innocent and like it's a fun dynamic.
It is.
I feel like, I'm really looking forward to, right now I'm working on something that is a little bit like more like a shared goal type forced proximity, which I haven't really done before. Like kind of like shared project thing, which sounds but so I'm excited for that. And like there's kind of like a I can't never mind.
Say too much. Yeah, we don't want to get in trouble.
I'm so bad at this. I'm like, oh, never mind. Actually,
we don't want to get you in trouble, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are we ready for the next one? Sorry, y'all. I cut out a few times.
Yes, it's okay. And technically, we've already answered the last one, so like this one could be kind of the last one if you If you think so, because she
I
kind of already
think,
answered.
have we answered this one yet?
Mhm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we've answered that one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we already answered this one. And we can't really say anything about this one.
Yeah, you kind of already did.
I don't say anything. Other than I'm just really, really excited about it. And yeah, I think now that I'm no longer independently publishing, it will be a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want everyone to, know that we're going to practice some patience. I'm not good at it either. That's why I put out 4 books in 1 year. I get it. Good news is that I think it's going to be really special and worth the wait. I hope. I really hope.
Oh,
If not, also sorry.
It is.
Apologizing in advance. But
No, it is. And we kind of have the audiobook to look forward to for On a Limb, possibly.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Silver linings.
Yeah. And I mean, and we'll get to see new covers for Next of Kin and Next to You, hopefully soon.
Exciting things to look forward to.
So it'll be good. A lot of stuff will be happening. It'll just new book will be a while.
Yeah, we're patient.
Yeah, when we want to be.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This has been so fun. I've had
We
the
love
best
you.
time. I feel like I just saw that it was almost 2 hours and I was like, that's not possible.
Oh, wow. It's just flown by. Thank
Yeah.
you for having us, Ava, and thank you for doing this with us, Hannah. We just love you so much. Your books mean so much to both of us.
And you guys have just been so wonderful. So thank you.
I love this book so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Ava. Thanks for
Thank
hosting.
you.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
comment. Yeah.
And thanks, everybody.
Of course, we all love this book. Technical difficulties.
It's okay.
All good.
Yeah.
All good.